Hello. Sorry for being a little bit late today. I had a little bit of a bump in the road right when I was going to start up. You catch any of this UAP hearing? I don't want to hear. Why does everybody want to watch this? Oh yeah. You could maybe, Tessa. Maybe it could be called a crack in the road. Anyway, this is wherever the soundtrack for epic space projects. Yeah. Because aliens. Well, guys. Okay. So first of all, this UAP thing is a Senate congressional test. It's a testimony meeting. So all it's doing is saying, they're not. This isn't like anything that anyone's going to release, like some new information. Not saying it was aliens. Oh yeah, aliens exist. No, this is a congressional testimony. So basically, the people that are willing to testify under oath about what they've seen in UAPs is being entered into the congressional record. Now, that is big in the fact that the government is recognizing that UAPs exist. So UFOs could be black projects, could be whatever, could be Chinese balloons, we don't know, right? Them recognizing that phenomenon exists is the big deal, but I'll be 100% honest with you. I'm not too incredibly interested in what the testimony that's going to be said, because it's basically just, it's not going to be anything new. I'm telling you this right now. They're not going to bank on some new information for congressional testimony. In fact, the reason why this meeting exists is because there's credible evidence from Navy pilots that say that this phenomenon exists, and that's why it's being entered. This is basically just putting it into the congressional record, acknowledging that this phenomenon exists and documenting this stuff. That's all this testimony is. We shouldn't be hearing anything new in a testimony like this. All the good testimony will be in the classified hearing. Yeah, the big thing is that the Senate and the government is willing to acknowledge that these do exist, and that we don't know what they are. But, see, here's the thing. Just because the Senate, just because congressmen and congresswomen don't know what this stuff is, doesn't mean that we don't know what it is. Compartmentalization is a huge thing, especially in the government. Ask anybody that's served. Compartmentalization is on a need-to-know basis. So these black projects are probably, the congressmen don't need to know about it. Like, forgive me for being a little bit cynical, but I don't think there's anything there. Here, I will show you this, though. We were talking about this yesterday, but we got some rollout footage, baby. Plausible deniability. Yep. Hey, Halo, I am the Senate. Nice try, Palpatine. There's things the president probably isn't told, of course. I mean, John, like, even if we want to reduce it to its base element, the president doesn't know, like, the details of a special operations operation, I guess. Like, you know, the president gets the cliff notes. You don't know every freaking detail of, like, an op that's happening, right? Like, I mean, I'm not even sure I'm using the right terminology there. Sorry, but yeah, hello, baby. I hate that the front gear is so far back. Dude. You know, we saw renders. I said this yesterday. We saw renders of the X-59, and I'm like, you know, that's pretty cool. But seeing the thing roll out of the hangar, holy balls! This thing looks like what you'd expect a 21st century aircraft to look like. That's what you know, you think about the future. That's what the future's supposed to look like. Look at this freaking plane, dude. The mast is pretty far back. Yeah, Tessa, that nose cone is for the most part hollow. Oh, man, does that thing look cool. It's the X-59 Quiet SST. This thing, it's so freaking cool. It'll be able to break the sound barrier. with no sonic boom, or at least a little, not no sonic boom. That's an overstatement. That's a little bit of hyperbole on my part. This thing will be able to break the sound barrier and have the decibel levels for the sonic boom be like not even halved, but quiet. It will sound like a firework going off instead of a cannon going off. Is that your new daily driver? I freaking wish, dude. Dude, look at that plane. Oh, the thing it looks so cool. It'll be a thud. Yeah, exactly. Instead of sounding like a howitzer going off, it'll sound like somebody banging on your door. Dude, this thing looks like something out of The Last Starfighter or something. Or like something out of Star Wars, man. Oh, that's cool. So the front, those are winglets. They're not articulatable, I don't think. They're winglets. If you have a wing element on the front of the plane, in front of like the main wing element, that does not articulate. It's a winglet. I don't know. I mean, they might be canards, but I don't think those are articulatable. Maybe they might be. They might have a little bit of deflection on them, but I'm pretty sure those are there to basically. What's the right way to say it?
Go at throttle up.
It's basically there to break the wake from the sonic boom. That's the right. That's probably not the right way to say it, but that's the idea. It's not necessarily guiding the shockwave, Tessa, but I think it cuts a boundary layer in half. I think. Tessa, this thing could deflect the boundary layer coming off the top. It could deflect it down under the wing, but I'm not 100% sure. Think about like how on an F1 car, the front spoiler deflects air up over the tires. Those are there for a very specific reason, and that airfoil is very, very It's very, very thin and it's very pointy. It's very pointy. It's not pointy enough. So I'm not 100% sure why it's there. It has something to do with the sonic booms, though. I can tell you that because, well, normal planes don't have stuff like that, with the exception of like an F-18. But that's. I did look into this a little bit more, dude. This thing is a parts bin airplane, which is actually super freaking cool. It's got an F-16, or not an F-16. It's got an F-117 flight stick in it, which is really, really cool. And the landing gear is F-18. It's not F-16. It's like made out of spare F-18 parts and F-117 parts and F-18 avionics. There's a bunch of good stuff in this thing. The canards have trim authority. Yeah, maybe. Well, has it flown yet? No, this thing just rolled out of the shop. Just rolled out of the Skunk Works, man. It is so freaking cool. Dude, look at that thing. That's such a cool plane. Like once again, when I first saw the renders of it, I'm like, that is a weird looking plane. But it's kind of one of those things that the more you look at it, the better it gets. Look, guys, here, another thing to take into account. Look at the diffuser. I don't even know if that's called a diffuser. It has a diffuser behind the engine. You see that? I'm not even sure that that's what that's called. But part of the sonic boom comes from the flow separation coming off the back of a flying vehicle. The sonic, like Falcon 9. When Falcon 9 comes back down and lands, right, one of the most audible noises that you hear, the biggest sonic boom, is the wake that's coming off the back of the vehicle. It's coming off the inner stage, right? You hear kind of 3 with Falcon, right? Actually, it would be, I mean, with Falcon, it's kind of more the grid fins than anything, but still, at the back, you're getting a lot of flow set back there. So I'm not entirely sure what the supersonics entail with this, but that definitely is a diffuser, like on a car, which is kind of crazy. Maybe it deflects the sound upward. I'm going to guess that it deflects the noises from the exhaust, J-Speed. Yeah, but super interesting. Look at that freaking plane. That thing is cool, man. Well, Pogo, the crazy thing is that if you look at the front of this plane, the picture that's up from the front, which is right here. There's a deployable camera behind that guy's elbow. See? There's a deployable camera right there. And then that camera is the forward-facing camera. There's no forward window in the cockpit. There's just a big TV screen, and that can't, because the boom is in the way, right? Because you don't want like a bubble cockpit or something, like a canopy. A canopy will make a sonic boom because the air will deflect off of it, right? At supersonic speeds. So there's a camera there, and then there's a retractable camera out the bottom for when you're coming into land. Dude, and I'll be honest with you, like I did a space news in like 2018, 2019, where I said no pilot's going to want to fly this thing. No pilot's going to want to fly a plane where you can't look out the damn window. And then this came out, so yeah, I was pretty much wrong on that one. The cockpit is a T-38, by the way. Yeah, it's T-38 with a couple of other parts in their core, which is cool. What is this thing again? This is the X-59. It's an X-plane. NASA Experimental Aeronautics. It's an X-plane, like the X-1 or the X-15. Now, what is this plane supposed to do? The X-59 is designed to make little to no sonic boom. So think traveling at Mach 2 and something shoots by at Mach 2 and makes no sound. Like the sonic boom, instead of like a howitzer going off, like a, it's just like a thump. Basically, like if you banged on a door. It's about that audible. At least that's what the math says, right? The other thing is that this thing is designed to deflect. That nose looks like, the nose cone on this thing looks like a platypus. The reason why it's designed to do that is because it's designed to direct the wake upwards. Think like how a catamaran, like a catamaran ship, deflects the wake in a certain way to achieve a certain result. This will deflect the supersonic boundary layer up instead of down. That's why the nose is the way it is. No, that's why the nose is shaped like that, because not only is this thing designed to diffuse the wake effect that a plane leaves at supersonic speeds, but it's designed to deflect it in a different direction. It's wild stuff, man. If this thing does what NASA thinks it's going to do, supersonic transport is back on the table. Like Concorde Mark II. That's why the thing is so cool. I mean, dude, look at the shape. This, like I said, this thing looks like something that you'd see in a sci-fi movie from the future of like, oh yeah, it's 2033. This is how planes look. It's freaking sweet looking. When does this thing fly? Well, it just completed rollout, so they're going to be doing a good deal of ground testing with this thing. Yeah, it does look like it's like a bullet train and a F-16 tried to have a kid. It does look like a Shinkansen. Isn't that cool, man? Is this flight worthy or this is just a mock-up? No, Shaw, that's the real deal. This is the real plane. Oh, yeah. Got a link? Sure. What engine does it use? It's something off the shelf. I think it's from a... Please hold. Preliminary design started in February 2016 with the X-59 to be delivered to NASA in 2021 for flight testing in 2023. Oh, sweet. It is expected to cruise at Mach 1.42, about 937 miles an hour at an altitude of 55,000 feet, creating a low 75 perceived decibel level, PLDB, thump to evaluate supersonic transport acceptability. Oh, man, that's cool. What motor does it have? It's an F414. F-18. Yep. What the frick? McDonnell Douglas General Dynamics A-12 Avenger was a proposed American attack aircraft from McDonnell Douglas and General Dynamics. It was to be an all-weather carrier-based stealth bomber replacement for the A-6 Intruder in the United States Navy. Avenger 2 was taken from the TBF Avenger. What the balls is that? Flying Dorito. Cool. That would have been cool to make. We probably should have made that. That's UAP. This thing is sick, dude. Did you catch that there's a NASA DARPA event being streamed at the top of the hour? An update on the Draco nuclear thermal rocket. I know you were talking a bit about NTRs recently. Loopy, yeah, we know. Yeah, at the top of the hour, guys. Yeah. Nerva. Lockheed basically got a contract with DARPA and NASA, and actually I'm not sure what all parties are involved. Lockheed basically got a contract to manufacture Nerva engines. This is a long lead acquisition for nuclear propulsion to be manufactured. That's good news. Yeah. They're working with BWXT Core, exactly. Nuclear engines, guys, so first of all, I know people hear nuclear engines and they go, huh? Nuclear engines do spew out radioactive isotopes, but it's literally a drop in the bucket for the amount of radiation that's going around in space, first and foremost. But nuclear engines can afford you efficiencies that are basically unheard of from chemical deflagration rockets, so like just a regular combustion cycle rocket, or like a gas generator, or, oxidizer fuel, atomizing, exploding, right? The nuclear engine can be like twofold efficient over that, at the very least. So we're talking, for the Kerbal players, if you know a little bit about rockets, we're talking 900 second specific impulse, which is that's pretty good. I grew up 10 minutes from one of BWXT's plants in Virginia. Nice. Did you see the fusion drive they were building to demonstrate in 2027? No, Jack, but I want it. Strap that on a pole and stick it onto the gateway. Aqualex, I'm honestly thinking SLS Block 1C with a nuclear-powered EUS with no LOX tank. And reusability. So, boil-off prevention, etc., etc. Yeah. That's just cheating. That's what I want. I want a reusable on-orbit upper stage for SLS. So they can launch one, have it just sit in orbit, and then you could launch like a smaller rocket to refuel it, like New Glenn or Falcon Heavy or whatever. You launch a smaller rocket to refuel the damn thing, and then another SLS to assemble like basically a Grissom in space. That's what I want. Hey, Savvy, what's going on? Are you planning on playing City Skylines 2? Akibor, I'm going to play the snot out of that game. Dude, Q4 for me is going to be insane. We're going to get more updates for KSP 2, and it's only going to get better. Things can only get better. For KSP 2, Starfield's coming out. I'm going to play it so you don't have to, right? I'll bite the bullet on that one. And Cities 2 is coming out as well. I'm screwed. Yep, well, I better not make any plans for the rest of this year. I'm confused. What's the turning radius going to be for this at going Mach Jesus? The X-59? You don't... Mufasa, here's the thing. You don't turn when you're going that fast. Even if the airframe could take it, if you turn going Mach 1.4, you will black out like almost instantly. You just don't. Yeah, it'll kill you. Yeah, it's kind of don't do that. That's not just like the X-59. An F-22 wouldn't be able to make any form of turn go like super cruising at Mach like 2. No. You're gonna break something. Like you don't. You might be able to do like a long, like aileron-induced turn like that, but the faster you're going, the bigger your turning radius is going to be. My uncle, who's since passed away, worked at NORAD, and he said that the SR-71 took like 4 states to turn around. If you were going fast and you tried to turn it around, like the radius of it, the turning radius of an SR-71 going that fast is like 1,600 kilometer radius for the curve. Like, it's something insane. He said they used to track it. It used to take 4 states to turn the damn thing around. It's just a smaller Blackbird. There, I said it. This thing? Dude, this is just a tech demonstrator. This thing isn't designed to go incredibly fast, but if you combined this thing with... If you combine this thing with, like, Blackbird kind of technology, like, if you put a J58 on the back of this thing... I mean, you can, just needs a huge radius. SR-71 turned at Mach 3, but it took 4 states to do a 90-degree turn. I'm going to chalk that one up to chat delay, but yes. Yeah, the funny thing is that the Skunk Works is, yeah, Thomas, the Skunk Works is the one that made this. The same people that made, the same company, the same factory that made the SR-71 also made this. Can you imagine this thing with some SR-71 motors sitting out on the sides? I mean, it'd basically be an SR-71 at this point. But I definitely see some SR-71 inspired stuff, like the rudder. The rudder and vertical stabilizer element are on top of an engine. But see, even the intake, guys. See that hump in the intake? That's there to... It's basically there to make the air go into the engine in a way that basically doesn't make a sonic boom. Either that or it's a decelerator. The intakes on jet engines are super, super important, especially for like fighter jets and stuff that goes past the speed of sound. The reason why has to do with the exhaust velocity of the jet engine. So say this jet engine shoots gases out at, I don't know, 400 miles an hour, right? So if it shoots gases out at 400 miles an hour, like the gas, like if you could measure the speed of the air molecules flying out of this thing, like the exhaust velocity, right? Say it's 400 miles an hour. And then you get your plane to 400 miles an hour. So the air going into the jet engine is going the same speed as the exhaust. See, that kills the jet engine. That's not good. There's a certain point where you can't. The air going out has to go faster than the air going in to go faster, right? So in the 60s, actually in the 50s and the 60s, the 50s, the SR-71 kind of helped figure this out, right? More or less. I mean, hypersonics is super. Mach 5 is a little bit different than, like Mach 1, but they basically figured out that if you make drag inside of the intake, you can slow the air down to subsonic before it goes into the jet engine. Concorde uses stuff like that. Concorde uses what's called a ramp intake. So basically at higher speed, actually this is perfect. The intake ramp. At higher speed, the ramp deploys and it slows the air down. It slows the air down to make drag, to make it so the jet engine is intaking air slower than it's shooting air out. And that's one of the reasons why we can break the sound barrier, because somebody figured this out. Eric Johnson, Kerbal Space Association Program Mediation. Yes. Imagine how hard all the testing of the parts has been for this plane. Yeah, Zizep, I mean, if they provided knowledge before the most recent revelations, it makes Boeing look even worse. More bad news. Okay, I guess we're doing an impromptu space news. Okay, so EJ's Space and Rocket. Title is too long.